I'm now ready to quilt the last section of my London quilt block, and I've chosen to quilt ribbon candy in the large light green borders. I have the borders taped off with 1/4 inch quilter's tape so that when I make my ribbon candy it won't go down into the seam allowance. I plan to quilt this together, to stitch this together once I'm done quilting it, and this is my seam allowance and will be stitched over. I've made my knot and I'm getting ready to quilt my ribbon candy. I'm going to quilt it parallel to this line right here. So make it fat at one end. And back to the other end. It's a little slow on the machine. You take that up to 34%. So fat ends and another fat end. These are not all the same size. They don't all touch the seam. They don't all touch the tape. They don't all touch each other. If you look at them all individually, you might get a little judgmental. But if you look at the quilt once it's quilted, the effect is pretty. Hold that there so I don't get a little bump in my fabric. So I've ended my ribbon candy with my needle in the corner. That way I can go and continue to quilt around the next piece of my block and the next piece and the next piece. Distribute the end of that block evenly. And I ended back in the seam again. Noticed I haven't rotated the quilt as I'm going. I have a 16-inch quilting area on this machine, and I am able to quilt up, across, down, and have plenty of room to do that. If I were quilting this on a home machine with a smaller throat space, I may turn it each time to constantly quilt it in one direction, whichever fits best in my machine. Let me come back down this side. Again, fatter at one end and fatter at the other end. You can see here it's almost like I quilted around a circle right there. Now when I get down to have a small amount left, I can come in and decide if I'm going to do one big ribbon candy, if we're going to make two smaller ones in there. It looks like there's enough room for me to make two smaller ones. One, two, and I'm kind of sneaking down the line here just to make sure that my needle ends up ready to go for the next section. Trim my bobbin threads. Oh, I ripped my tape off. Let's put that back on. Now once I'm done quilting all four sides of this, if you were to count how many ribbon candies were in each section, I would probably not have the same number of ribbon candy loops in any of the four sides. I'm absolutely fine with that. I don't sit and count and measure and hope they all line up. This is a free motion overall design, and I'm fine to make it look like I did it. Free motion and a little inconsistent. I like the way that looks. Pause to reposition my hand. Here I could do one big fat one at the end and come down and meet at the seam. My block is now done.